Hello and welcome back to our Substance Designer tutorial on creating texture atlases. So here we're going to pick up where we left off and we're going to start creating our texture atlas. Here we have our atlas node and we're going to start to create the actual tile that we need. So going back to Maya, and here let me just open it again just kind of as a refresher here. We went through and we started to measure our geometry. This is going to be our brick texture, and we've measured this guy to be a horizontal axis here, so this is 3 units, and we've said that for each unit, so 1 unit is equal to 256 pixels. So we've got here 3 times 256, this is going to give us 768. And then we went through the process of just snap this guy here. So our vertical resolution is 4.2. So 4.2 times 256, that gives us 1075 pixels. So jumping back here to Designer, we're going to start to set this guy up. So again, my max resolution is going to be my 2K, so I'm setting my resolution guide to that. And so horizontal resolution we know is going to be 768 pixels. By 1075 pixels, and what I'm going to do is just put this here, this tile, just going to start it in this area. So for my offset, I'm just going to put this at 0, 0, and since I have edge justify on, that means it's going to place it right here flush in the corner at this 0, 0 origin. So now I have my first tile. So now the next thing we need to do is start to feed in the material. So for my case, I'm just going to go to the library and I'm going to grab this PBR materials. I'm going to grab bricks and I'm just going to make an instance of bricks here into the graph. And I'm going to take the material and I'm going to plug it right into my atlas maker. We'll double click. We have this material masked off to fit this appropriate pixel resolution that we need for that specific area of the geometry. Now we have a couple things that we can start to work with. Here in the material section, we can start to tile the material. We can do an offset. So let's say that we start to tile the material. I could offset the material if I like, so I can kind of do like an offset here. In this case, I'm not going to do an offset, so I'll leave this at 0, 0. If I wanted, I could actually rotate the underlying material as well. So here, in this case, I'm just going to start to kind of tile this guy, maybe something like this here, 2.96 or so. So we're going to get kind of a tile like this. So here is my brick section here. Now, going back to Maya, what I'm going to end up doing with this guy, as we kind of shown already, here, let's take this board, let's just kind of move it out of the way. The brick is going to show in this area, and it's going to be part of a modular asset, meaning that this piece of geometry is designed to be tiled. So here, if I duplicate it, and I hold down the V key and snap it here. So again, holding down V and I'm just snapping it here to that vertice. You can see that that brick texture is going to need to tile horizontally all the way across like this. So it means that the part of the edge here and here of that tile needs to be seamless, so that when we tile it across these this modular geometry, we won't see a seam here. Now this particular brick, we don't need it to tile on the vertical. So up and down, it doesn't need to tile. It only needs to tile horizontally. So here we'll go ahead and just delete this guy. And let's jump back over to Atlas Maker and take a look at what we have thus far. So we need to make sure that this guy is going to be seamless. And right now it's not. Now speaking of seamless, one of the best ways to work with this tool is to utilize or start with substance materials that are seamless like this. So as you can see, we've got this texture here that is seamless. If I hit spacebar here in the 2D view, it basically shows me how this texture is going to tile. And so you can see that, you know, it is a seamless texture. And so whenever you feed in a material, you're going to get, you know, the most benefit by having a material that can be tiled like this. So here we have this tiling material. However, if we go back here, and here, let me hit spacebar again. If we go back, we've actually masked this geometry in a certain area. So the reason why we're not just using a transform and scaling this guy is because we need to scale it to an appropriate or a specific resolution here. And most of the time, this is going to be non-square. If we were to keep this square resolution here, and the way that we're setting up this ratio, because we want the geometry size to match the exact pixel count that we're using for this to be really optimized. And in our case, for that geometry, it's very non-square. So if we were to have just got a transform and scaled it horizontally in this way to match that, the texture or the material would be stretched and distorted. So we don't want that. That's why we're utilizing this masking type workflow here so that we can mask this to get into place. But we're going to have a problem with tiling. And let me show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to hit the space bar and I'm going to start to type in material transform. So let's grab a material transform here and let's plug this guy into view. So in case you ever run into this situation where you have a material transform and you hook in your material and you don't see anything. Well, the reason being is if we come over here to our channels, you can see that all channels are enabled by default. And so the first channel being diffuse, well, we're not actually hooking in any diffuse information to this guy. That's why we don't see anything. So if I just quickly disable diffuse and I go back, we see what we have here. And so actually, now I don't want to hook it in this way. I want to grab the transform from our atlas. So this is what I want actually. So let me go in and just delete that link. So what I'm doing here with this transform is I'm just going to utilize this to illustrate a point. We don't actually have to use a transform in any way for this. But like I said, we're just going to illustrate this point here. So another thing I'm going to do is just quickly grab a material blend just so we can composite these guys together, just so we can see them in relation to each other. So again here, same thing with this is with our material transform, material blends, and so on. You need to make sure that you set your channels up appropriately. So first, actually I'm going to use this material blend down the road, so let's just set it all up now. So diffuse is false, specular is false, glossiness is false, and height, I'm not using any height information. Alright, so we're going to place this guy here and here. Oops, sorry, the material I need. So we're just going to blend these two materials together. And for right now, I'm just going to grab this mask. And let's put this guy over. And I'll talk more about what I'm actually doing here, because right now I'm just using this just for a demonstration. Alright, and let me just move this offset here. So we get something like this. Now we're not seeing this because of the way we are compositing this guy. Let me just invert my mask. Again, I'm moving through this very quickly. I'm going to cover this in just a moment. Okay, so let's go back to our material transform. And I'm just going to zoom in here. And I'm just going to try to just line this up just so we can make a point here of what's going on. Okay, let's go back and look at this guy. Okay, so the reason why I use this material transform is I'm trying to simulate the environment of I took this tile and I'm duplicating it over and we're going to see how it matches up. So again, the reason I'm doing that is because it's precisely what's going to happen here when we work with the geometry in our level. So when we snap this guy together, the way I did this here, I'm just trying to mimic that here inside of Designer, and that's why we're using this transform. And so you can see that, because even though this guy was seamless, the way that we masked that area here with that tile, we're not getting a seamless texture anymore. So what we need to do is fix that, because it's not going to work for us the way we have it. So what you can do, once you set this guy up, if we go and select the node itself, we have this nice feature here on the Atlas Maker called Make Seamless. And as soon as I enable this guy, boom, it makes it seamless. And so now we have the ability to make this tile seamless across here. So that means that when I actually duplicate or I apply the texture atlas to this mesh and I duplicate the mesh over, we're now going to get a nice tile here. Because remember what I said, this particular texture tile needs the tile in the horizontal or X axis. Now once you do that, we have the ability to change what axis you want to work on. So is it horizontal or vertical? Now, if you're working with a texture that is square, so let's say for instance here, I had my Atlas Maker and I came in and I was working with a 512 by 512. So here, let's set this guy to 1024 just so it's bigger here in the viewport. And 512, 512, and I feed a material into this guy, and I set this up to tile here for myself. If I come in and I set this guy to be seamless, so let's say we start to create a material tile and we set this guy to be seamless. So now it's seamless even though it's set to horizontal, or even if we switch it to vertical. Notice switching it to vertical doesn't do anything in this case, because If you're using a tile that is square, 512, 512, and you make it seamless, it is seamless on both the vertical and horizontal axis. So the only time this really becomes an issue, as we've seen here, is if we're using something that's going to be non-square like this. Now, in the event for this guy, we just wanted to tile horizontally, so that's why we set this guy to be a horizontal axis. If we wanted this to tile vertically, we would switch this to vertical. So in our case, let's just say that it was supposed to tile this way, we would switch it to vertical. Now, we've tiled this guy. That means that it took the tiling nature of this substance and it tiles it specifically based on this tile mass size that we're using, and it gets rid of the seam. But this size resolution may not be enough. So if we left it like this and we went back to Maya and we applied it, our bricks could still be too large for this area. So we may need to adjust the scale more. And we can do that by this scale option. And you can see that now I'm adjusting the overall scale, yet I'm retaining that seamless nature of this as well. So here in this case, I'm going to set this to 2 because that's the resolution, or that's the size that I know is going to work pretty good for how this is how this texture is going to fit on that particular geometry. So since we're just using this node here, that transform, just to just kind of prove a point of what was going on, I'm just going to delete it because we don't need it anymore. So now we have our first tile in place, and we know it's seamless on the horizontal axis, and we've set our scale here to be you know, this 2, which means, you know, it's just basically the bricks are going to be a little bit smaller on the geometry, which is what we want. So now we can start to go in and work with the next part. So let's do that. Let's go and grab another instance of our Atlas Maker. And before we set this up, we need to do some geometry measuring. So let me just go back. I'm just doing it step by step here so we can see this. Now, the next piece I want to work with, let's delete that guy. The next piece I want to work with is this guy here. So if we go into face mode, we want to work with kind of like this concrete area here. All right, and so this locator here is already in place. So let's grab this guy. I'm gonna hit V to put myself into point snap mode, and I'm just gonna snap. And so we're gonna take a look, and this is basically 0.3. So let's go back to our calculator here, and we're gonna say 0.3 times 256 equals 76.8 pixels. I'm actually just going to round this up to 80. So I'm going to say 80 pixels. So 80 pixels is going to be my height. Let's grab this locator. Let's hold down V and measure this guy. And again, obviously we're at 3, so we're going to use the same width. So let's go back to Designer, and let's set up our tile. So we have our tile here. So on the X, we know we want 768, and on the Y, we want it to be 80, so 80 pixels. So this becomes the tile that we're going to use for this material section. Let me go and grab the concrete, and I'm going to grab this concrete material and just hook it in. So we'll double click, and here's what we get. Let me just kind of zoom in on it. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to start to adjust my material tile. It needs to be seamless on the horizontal axis, so let's do that. So we've made it seamless, and I could adjust my scale to maybe 2, and so here is what we get. Now we have our 2 tiles, and we need to start the process of compositing them together. So I'm going to grab this material blend. I already have it set to use the correct channels. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our first material, our bricks, and we're going to plug this guy in, and we're going to take our second material, which is going to be our concrete, and we'll plug that in. Now we double click and we see nothing. Okay, so the next thing that we want to talk about is how this mask works. So for every Atlas node, it's generating a mask for us. Okay, and here, let me go and take the mask invert and turn that to false. Okay, because that's what it is by default. So here we're bringing this guy out, and if we look at this guy, it's just basically masking where this tile is. Now you may need to use this mask for different for other purposes than just utilizing that as a composite. And so you have this output there for you to use as you may or may not need. Now the way we're going to use it though is with the material blend, and so we're going to blend it. Now what happens is, or how you do this is, you take, you have material A, so this is going into the first material input, and then we have the first material here, the second material going into, well, it's actually in material input slot 1. Okay, so think about it in terms of layering. Material 1 is on the bottom, material 2 is on the top. So whatever's on the bottom, I'm going to take its mask and I'm going to plug it into the grayscale mask. Okay, now what we need to do though, so we start to get something here, but notice that it's masking. So we just need to select the node and we just need to invert it like this. So when we do that, we get the composite that we need. So whenever you set this up, if we take a look at the setup here, it's going to be, a material. You grab a material blend, you take, the material here into the first input or the top input, and this material here into the bottom input, which means it's material 1. Whichever material here is in input 1, you're just going to take its mask, plug it in, invert it, and now we get this set up. So now that we have the composite working, we need to align this material. So I'm going to go back to my Atlas Maker here, and I'm going to start to work with my offset. So we know that this guy here, we know that this is going to be on its height here, it's 1075. So I'm going to just tell this guy's offset on the Y to be 1075. And that's going to place it right where it needs to be. We know that we can use the appropriate pixel value to place this tile in the correct location or right underneath of this bricks material. So now let's start to work with our next material. So let's go back to Maya. And what we're going to work with next is this kind of sidewalk here. So we know that horizontally it's going to be 3, so it's 768. Let's measure this guy vertically. So again, just using my point snap to put this into place. So here we can see vertically we're at 1.8. Let's grab our calculator, and so we have 1.8 times 256, and so it's going to be 460. We'll just round it down to 460. So 460 by 768. So let's jump back to Designer here, and we're going to grab ourselves a new atlas, and we're going to say, okay, so on our X pixel size is going to be 768, and our Y height is going to be 460. So we have this guy. For the concrete, I'm going to use this concrete material, so we'll place this guy in. We'll take a look at what we have. Let's grab our material. So here's the way I work with this. I just select the one that I had previously, copy and paste it, and we hook it up. So remember, our new material is just going to be on the bottom here, and we need to take the mask and place it in. And remember, because it's in the first material 1 slot, we just invert the mask, and so now it's composited. We just need to put it in the right spot. And so here we know that if we look at the x-axis here, if we look at the x resolution, 768 for this guy. So we'll come over to the offset and we'll place this at 768. And so we move this guy over 768 pixels, and now we have right what we need here. And so just like that, we have another tile in place. This guy is going to tile horizontally as well. So let's come over here to our let's select this guy. Let's come over to our material, and for our material we start to adjust it, so we can adjust the tiling manually, but we know that we're going to have to make this seamless on the horizontal axis. So let's just hit make seamless, and that's going to look pretty good. It's kind of dark, so let me go back to the material itself, and I'm going to go to the concrete color here, and I'm just going to increase the value. So maybe something like this. Okay, so that'll work. And now we need to add another tile here. So again, we'll just create the instance of our atlas. Let's jump back over to Maya. This time we're going to be working with here the pavement section. So let's grab our measure tool. Let's snap to that vertice, and let's snap to this vertice out here. And so you can see this guy is a 3, and of course it's square, so it's going to be 3 by 3. So I'll just show that here. So it's a 3 by 3, and we already know that that's going to be 3 units, 3 times 256, 768 pixels. So we'll jump back and we'll set this guy up. So 768. by 768. So there's our resolution. And for this guy, I'm going to go and grab Pavement and grab the concrete here for this pavement, and we'll put this guy in. And so here's what we get. And let's just take our material blend, let's copy and paste it. And let's just place our new material here. It's in material input 1. Let's grab our mask and put this guy into place. We'll double click. Can't see it because we need to invert our mask, and now we have everything starting to compile together. So we're going to want to tile this guy. So let's go back to that atlas here, and for the material tile on this guy, I'm just going to give it a value of 4. So now we need to align or offset this tile so that it'll align. I want to place it right underneath this value here. And so what I want to do, if we just kind of zoom in, and let's go here to hit I here so we can see our input. And if we just place our cursor here, let me just zoom all the way in. And I'm going to just place my cursor right here at the edge. You can see kind of in this area for my X and Y information where this is gives me the pixel value. So 1075. And actually I can see that I made a mistake with this material because our brick is supposed to be 1075. And what I've actually done is just taken this second concrete here and just overlapped it. So let me fix that real quick. Really easy way to fix that too, and it's going to show off some of our snapping tools. So if I come over to the Atlas Maker itself, and so like I said, I came into the Atlas Maker, and for the Y, I put this all the way at 1075. What that ends up doing is it's just overlapping into the brick. I actually need to push this down. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to turn off my edge justify for this guy. And so you can see where, you know, it's trying to center, it's basically aligning off the center of this tile now. And so what I'm going to do now is manually align the left edge. So that puts that into place. And then I'm going to align this tile to this tile based off the bottom edge. So I'll click this, and now that aligns it correctly. So if I come in and take a look, that 1075, if I look at my value right at the edge of that brick, right there, 1075 is what I need to be. So for this new material that I have, I actually want it to be around here. So it'd be around 1156. Let me just zoom in and make sure I'm hitting this right where I need it to be. So yeah, 1156 is what that should be. So let's come into this material, and for its offset, let's do 1156. Okay, and let's see. And for this guy, I'm going to have to manually set this up as well. So let's turn off our edge justify. Let's align the left edge, and then let's align the bottom edge. And we'll zoom in, and it looks like I was off just a little bit here. So, and what I wanted to do. So let's do 1155. There we go. So that I was off 1 pixel there with where I measured. So that aligns that guy correctly. And so here we'll just disable or just turn off kind of that info panel here so we can see this a bit more clearly. And so now we have these 3 textures aligned this way vertically, and then we have our concrete here. And so now we basically have almost everything. Let's start to add in the wood planks that I'm going to work with. So jumping back over to Maya, let's grab this wood plank here. This time we'll just move this guy into place here. And let's grab our measure tool and hold down V key. And we're going to snap this guy to here. And let's grab this other locator, V key. Make sure I get it right here. So select it, hold down the V key, and snap. So what do we get here vertically? Let's make sure we snap it right. Okay, there we go. So 2.4 vertically. Let's move over to our calculator, and so this is going to give us our our vertical axis. So 2.4 times 256 equals we'll say 614 vertically. And let's measure this guy horizontally now. So V and snap 0.6 and multiply this by 256. So we're going to use 153 horizontally by 614. Okay, so here we'll just go back to Substance. Let's grab another instance of our Atlas Maker. And for wood here, I'm using this old painted planks. Let's put this guy in and set up our material. Let's go and set up our size. So like we said here on the X, we were going to do 153, and for our Y, we're going to do 614. So there's our resolution. Let's go back to the actual material itself, and let's take this planks amount, and we're going to set this to 1. And here I'm going to go back to the atlas, and I'm going to tile this guy, I think, 3 times. And we'll zoom in here. Let's rotate it. So let's go to our degrees, and let's just rotate this guy 90 degrees. There we go. So that sets up that tile for us. Now we need to composite it. So let's just copy and paste our material blend. Let's grab this guy here. So here again, I'm just taking that the material that I want to composite in, the one I'm working on now. It goes into material 1 slot. Let's grab its mask, we invert it and place this in, and so here it's in place. So now what we're going to do is let's set this guy so we know that its offset is going to be 768. So offset will be 768. So it places that where we need it to be. Let's look at the Y offset for this material. So if we just go back, a really quick way to do this is just go back to this material, and you can see that its Y size is 460, so we can just offset it by that much. So we'll come in and just say offset is 460, and here's what we get. So now one thing I would like to do with this wood, so we've got this wood in place. I'm going to want to duplicate this a few times. And the reason being is that I'm gonna have, I want to give myself the ability to have, several pieces of these wood planks, and I'm going to assign different UVs to different areas of the wood, just so it's not all the same. So I'm just gonna build in some variation here into this wood. So let me show you how I would do that. So let's just select these guys here. So the material, actually, let's do it this way. Let's just select the atlas and the material blend. So we're gonna copy these guys and paste them. So move this into place here. Here, let's delete that. Let's do it again. Copy, paste. Alright, so we want this to be attached to our material. We're just reusing that. Let's copy this material and paste it. Alright, and then we're just going to hook this guy up. And we're going to switch our mat. So here is our mask. Notice it's in the same exact spot, so here we're just going to invert our mask, and we'll plug this guy in. Okay, and so we'll double click. Actually, I forgot to invert the mask. Okay, so now we're set. Alright, so now we have this new node, and we've just copy and pasted it, so it's just sitting right on top of the other node, and all we want to do is just offset it over. So there's a really easy tool to do this with our alignment options. So what we can do is we're going to come over here to our enable relative offset, and I'm going to enable this, and I have the option. Once I do that, you can see it's already taken place for me here. It's already offset it. So what I can do with this guy is I can choose the axis that I want to be where this relative offset is going to take place. So I've chosen X axis. We've done one relative offset, which means it's just moving it over one time. If I were to do 2, 3, and so on, and here you can see that we're just offsetting that mask. Again, notice it's really just masking that underlying material that's underneath of it, and so we just mask this guy over. Or I could do offset it by the Y, so that would have placed it right below it if I wanted to do it that way as well. So here I'm just going to leave it at the X. Or we could do an offset of X and Y if we want to. And you can see where that's going to place, it's going to move it over 1, and then it's going to move it down 1, and so that offsets it there. So we'll keep this here at this offset. Something else I want to do with this is I wanted to vary this material. So let's just take this guy and copy and paste him. And let's actually change this material. So we're going to go back to this material, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change maybe a little bit of a value here on this plank's color. Tighten that up a little bit. Maybe that's too much. And maybe the paint age. So I'm just changing the material a little bit. There we go. So now we get that. Okay, so now let's just maybe do the same thing again. So let's just copy. Actually, I need to copy all these guys. So let's just copy and paste them. Let's move these guys all down here, and let's just replace what we have. So we'll double click. Here's what we have. We'll go back to our offset. Now this time we're going to offset it again. So let's come over to the relative offset and just offset it one more time over, and now here's what we get. And so now what we're going to do for this guy, whoops, I'll probably just come up to its basic, let's see, base parameters, and just change its random seed. Boom, and now we get a different piece of wood here. And so now we've got kind of 3 variations of this wood plank here. Everybody's pieced together at this point.